It's going to be a football game tonight now. No doubt. It's going to be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
And the Ohio State Buckeyes are the first national champions of the playoff era.
Ladies and gentlemen, football to football.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughn, and Randy Isbell.
Hello and welcome to another Football to Football, and this is week 2 of us doing full previews of the NFL games, also previewing week 3 of college football, and of course we will also talk about what started out as a sort of boring defensive battle with the Broncos and Chiefs and turned it into a wild, crazy finish that almost went to overtime if it wasn't for a tremendous defensive play. But, you know, we've got to start things like we always do, introducing ourselves. I am your host, Sean Garmer, and with me is my two lovely co-hosts, Mr. Gary Vaughn and Randy Isbell. How are you guys?
Yeah, I don't know. It's very lovely.
Trying to figure out what... It's kind of tough doing this at the same time, Randy. I wish we could double talk, don't you?
Yes, let's just do it the whole podcast. Everyone would love it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the one thing I'll say is, when did Jamal Charles decide that he wanted to get sponsored by Butterfinger?
Wasn't this a problem earlier in his career, where this would happen all the time?
I guess he's reverting back to his past.
No,
he's aging. No, I'm joking.
No, he decided to get sponsored by Butterfinger the moment he heard that I picked him to go to the Super Bowl. So
there you go.
Randy just has terrible luck.
They dominated that whole game.
I don't know about that, man. The Denver defense was also doing some dominating too.
It really surprised me the way that they held in there. I really felt like Kansas City's defense was going to be very powerful. They were going to get to Manning, which they, were able to get to Manning. But, the offense stood strong. Peyton Manning did, get the things done that he needed to get done and controlled the ball as much as he could. That offensive line scares me to death. I think Kansas City a year ago would have creamed them, but this year they're good.
I don't know about that. Their defense, I think, is better this year than last year.
Really? I don't know. I think
if Peyton Manning, the guy that faces them every week, is telling you that,
maybe he's the one who faces them. I'm just saying, from my experience in watching this team, I love the defense they had. Maybe not last year, but the year before. I really love their defense.
Now, that's why I had Kansas City in the Super Bowl, because I really thought their defense was improved, and that's just why I felt like they dominated this game, because they had it exactly they wanted it, just low scoring, close, and just make the play at the end to win the game. And it looked like that's the way it was going, but when you have 5 turnovers, obviously that's not what any team wants to do, especially a team like Kansas City that's all about ball control and all about not making the mistakes. They made all of the mistakes today, and it cost them the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, not just that, but it's, Alex Smith and everybody, they were scoring. They were doing, they were moving the ball. Jamal Charles was running on that Denver defense, and then all of a sudden, the Denver started making some plays defensively. Manning kind of started getting things going. And, that's what's so weird is it was like defense city. It was sack here, sack there for the Chiefs. I mean, it seemed like Manning was going to spend more time on his back than he was going to spend anything else, and this was going to be another bad game for him. We were going to be talking about how he's just catching up to him and all this stuff, and he turned it around in the second half. Emmanuel Sanders had one heck of a game. Caught almost anything thrown to him. He was the third down guy a lot for Peyton Manning, so it shows a lot of trust in the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just, once again, I just really felt like that, the Kansas City's defense was going to way overpower this, Broncos offense. But, it's proven to be seen that, division games, any kind of these games where you get a rival, any situation, even if it's not in the same conference, if you get a rival, the games are going to be close. So, that's the way it works.
I think we also got to sit here and think about, if you're C.J. Anderson, what are you thinking right now? This is 2 games where Ronnie Hillman has looked incredibly better than you. You certainly need to be wondering about your spot right now.
Yeah, he's got to figure it out. Obviously, I think Denver went into this game going, okay, we usually can run on Kansas City. That's what we're going to do. And Peyton even said it. They were all surprised about just how improved the Chiefs' defense was on the running game, and you could definitely tell it really affected CJ, and they started kind of going to Hillman a little bit more, especially putting him on the goal line situations and stuff. CJ definitely needs to step it up. I believe they play Detroit next week, so it's another tough defense for him to try to get things going.
Not only that, but it's also a team that's, obviously, depending on what happens in their next game here, they're certainly going to be coming out firing. They've got the weapons to go against the Denver defense. So, if say that Denver offense is slacking again, they could be down a bunch of points before they can turn around and do anything.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big talking points for me, too, is I think, a lot of us, I still think I picked Denver because I thought Denver's defense was going to be as good as we're seeing, but certainly many people were already ragging on Manning, and with good reason, as he showed in the first game. But can this Denver defense, cover a lot of Manning's mistakes and maybe carry them, sort of like the Baltimore Ravens in 2000? Can they carry them further than we're expecting?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's funny that you'd think that a defense has to carry somebody like Peyton Manning, so it just kind of makes you a little bit more scared of this team, where Peyton Manning doesn't have to be at his best, and they can just go out there and win games, and then you have to worry about Peyton Manning doing what he did here in the second half and getting things rolling and hitting people on third down, especially Emmanuel Sanders, and all of a sudden this team is very scary.
Yeah, exactly. And, I can't believe that, we're sitting here talking about the same thing, because usually when you got Peyton Manning, a vested veteran, a guy that's been there, done that with everything when it comes to being a quarterback, moving offenses, with the talent that he has on that offense, and we're no longer talking about that. We're talking about the fact that defense is a strong point. That defense is going to be the ones that move them along. And, hey, they got great defensive players. I don't take anything away from that defense. But, with the struggles the offense have had, I think I've kind of taken it out on the defense. So, I agree with you guys that the defense is definitely going to move them in these games. And, hey, they probably will win more than I gave them, projected them for.
Certainly, I think at the end of the day, I was sitting here thinking about one of the things to watch was obviously Denver's defense and Kansas City's defense. We already talked about, Kansas City was really rolling towards the beginning there, and then, Denver's kind of took over. Tommy Harris Jr. with that, pick that probably, saved the game for them, and then obviously the fumble recovery and everything that kind of put them in the spot that they were in there to score that touchdown. So Denver's defense obviously trumps. Do you think which one, when we're talking about the end of the year, is Denver's going to be above Kansas City, or you still think the Chiefs is going to be better?
Well, I'll say this: if Denver's defense ends up at the end of the year with the better defense than Kansas City, then they win this division by 3 games.
Not many, huh?
Yeah, wow. That's a bold prediction, and he could be very right. But man, I think that the Chiefs' offense is pretty good. I don't have any doubts that Alex Smith can't lead this team and do things that we haven't seen him do in the past, because they have Jamal Charles. They added a great receiver in Jeremy Maclin. Kelsey is, besides tonight, which they controlled Kelsey, so that's a big key in this game we haven't mentioned yet. But I just think they got the weapons that they could be pretty good. But you're right, Randy. That defense and that offense controlled together, they are slightly better than Kansas City. But I think in the long run, if you're asking me, I really feel like Kansas City's still the strong one here. I don't imagine that, honestly, with the older players that Denver has, they're going to stay healthy all year long. Even DeMarcus Ware is already battling with health issues. That's kind of nerve-wracking for me if I'm the defensive coordinator.
I mean, going back to this running game for a second, I mean, is it just that the Broncos have faced two really good defenses in the first two games that this running game has not really been able to get going? 34 yards for Ronnie Hillman for a team that was supposed to be this running team now? And is this why we're seeing Peyton have to take this beating that he's been taking, where because the running game's not offsetting things, he's having to carry more of the load than he really should at this point?
It's possible, and like I said, it's going to be very difficult for them to really get it going next week. But I mean, I guess really the true test to figure out if this running game is really just this bad is week 4 when they played Minnesota. Obviously, we saw what Carlos Hyde did to them. So if they're going to show what they can do on the running game, we have to see it by week 4 or we're not going to see it.
Yeah, and once again, the record is still not broken for Alex Smith about throwing to a wide receiver for a touchdown.
Man.
In fact, he threw no touchdowns in this game. They were both runs by Nile Davis and Jamal Charles. He did have 2 interceptions, so definitely Peyton Manning won the battle of the quarterbacks on this one. Do you think now Peyton could gain some confidence and we might start seeing the Peyton Manning of before his downward slide last year?
You mean the Peyton Manning that could be strong and can handle himself? I don't. I don't think that. From what we're seeing right now, even in this small sample size, Peyton's going to be anywhere close to his great days. I think this running game has suffered because of it. I think that passing game, unless they find a way to get some more healthy offensive linemen in here, or you just get better talent, and that doesn't happen in the NFL. There's not enough talent to go around, especially on the offensive line.
I don't think he's really suffering in confidence. He knows his age. He knows where his ability is at, and he kind of knows that he can't do what he did 5 years ago, but he doesn't have to. He's supposed to have this great running game with him. His defense obviously is better than we all gave it credit for. So Peyton just has to control the game and do what he does best about reading the defense and finding the holes in it.
I just have a hard time believing you can have the confidence that you need going out there knowing every play there's a chance there's going to be a break. All the years that he had, I mean, I'm not saying he's not smart. I love Peyton Manning. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. I just think this guy's amazing. My problem with it is he reminds me of some of these veteran quarterbacks we've seen in the past. It just, once it broke down, I know Troy Aikman because I follow the Cowboys closely. When his offensive line was no longer the juggernaut that it was, he was all of a sudden this quarterback that couldn't make things happen. He was nervous. He never could get his feet straight just because he was not used to that. So,
yeah. Well, apparently I forgot that Jamal Charles lost another fumble in this game. It's only the second time in his career with multiple lost fumbles in a game. You honestly shouldn't have multiple lost fumbles in a game, period. But again, credit to the Denver defense, again, to make things happen. And I didn't even know this streak existed, that they have won 13 road games consecutively in conference. That's pretty amazing.
That's impressive.
Very.
Well, I think we pretty much covered this game from head to toe here. I mean, it was also Punter City. I think I've never heard them mention a punter's name as much as we did in this game. They even talked about the Colquitt family tradition and everything. You know, it's a dull game at one point when you're talking about punters.
But that's what you get sometimes in these Thursday night games. I don't believe that'll be the last time we hear something very odd or boring in these Thursday night games.
To be fair, at least it got better as it went on. So it wasn't one of those total clunkers or a total blowout.
Mm-hmm.
So much better than expected at first. But I think we kind of have to get into this, getting into these now Sunday games that we're going to get into here with. We've now picked our game. We've picked our 2 games of the week. Randy and I have picked the games we're watching. Obviously, Sunday night, Monday night, we're all watching that. But this is going to be a fun second week. See if we get tired of football even faster than we did last time. see if maybe we can actually watch these games in a timely manner, not trying to watch them all while we're watching the Monday night game like last week.
Yeah.
Which it is really hard to do, even though you have condensed versions of like 45 minutes and all that stuff. It's still, man, that's a long slog to do. If you have one thing interrupt the rhythm that you're going in, it's just, man, how do I pick that back up? Because we won't have 2 games this time. We'll only have 1. Which will be good because, starting at 2 in the morning or whatever it was that we started last time was not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But all right, so before we get to that, though, I think I have to make mention, what are you guys expecting for your fantasy teams this week? I know on 2 of my fantasy teams where I had the Denver defense, I already got 20 points, which is pretty awesome. I only got, I think, like 7 points or maybe 5 points from Owen Daniels, which sucks, but, it is one of those things. Sometimes with the Broncos offense, you don't know who's getting the ball, but any outlook on some, maybe let's just talk about the league that goes with this podcast, the F2F fantasy league. What are you expecting here from your teams?
Pure domination.
Oh, yeah, you could only hope, right? And, every week I go into it, I go in a little bit more nervous just because of the fact that, these games are very close. They're, a situation where the guy's like, you said it, Sean, I've got Owen Daniels in the league too. And, you think, oh, man, Manning's going to finally get it to him, and he doesn't. And, of course, in this league, we're just now talking about I got Owen Daniels as well. So 1.90 is not what I'm going to be seeing on a Thursday night. That's not the way to start my
I have 24 points because of my Denver defense.
So, well, there you go. And I wasn't like, I just didn't do that. So you're smarter than me.
I just happened to be picking defenses down there. I was like, oh, Denver's still here? Awesome. Yeah, I'm hoping some of these players pick it up because, Adrian Peterson cannot possibly have that same game he had last week again.
You could hope not.
Yeah. I really, really hope not.
Yeah, me and you both.
Anything from any of your players or anything, Randy, that you're hoping they do better or to single out here?
Yeah, I just want to see the Jets defense find a way to stop Aaron Rodgers. Or not Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck. Jesus. Yeah. I'm looking at my my fantasy matchup, and the guy I'm facing has Aaron Rodgers, but if the Jets defense could figure out a way to stop Aaron Rodgers, that'd be amazing. But I'm kind of worried about my defense. You're playing a tough team like the Colts. That could be a rough one. But really, it's, to me, the Philadelphia offense. I have Sam Bradford. So if they can get on the same page a little bit sooner than last week would be great for me.
Yeah, so just to, I guess, put things in perspective or whatever, just to give you like a top. Right now, somehow Randy is in. Oh yeah, Randy won, so Randy's in third right now. Both Gary and I lost the first week, so I lost to freaking Rando and his ridiculous Gronk and Brady combo, so he's second, right above Randy. Z is first, who's been on this podcast before doing soccer stuff, and Robert Cooper is fourth, and Gary's facing the other Robert, who's been on this podcast multiple times. You heard him during the season preview. So Be ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. I'm excited.
Randy is facing my dear friend Chris, who we'll probably hear when we get to which we have to do at some point this month. We're going to have to figure out a day to do the Major League Baseball playoff preview, which I'm sure Randy is just dying to get all his predictions wrong.
Oh, man.
It's going to be so bad.
I've
done so well this year.
Guy here.
I've done so well with every prediction I've made on this podcast this year. It's ridiculous. And my Seattle-Washington World Series is looking so good.
Oh, yeah. Well, before we get too away from fantasy here, you got to remember that there's always another way you can play daily or weekly with DraftKings.com. Just remember that the football season has only just begun, but it already feels like playoffs at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site where millionaires are being crowned all season long. One-week fantasy at DraftKings means no season-long commitment. That's right. You don't have to deal with your teams that you just drafted and have to go all 16 weeks hoping they always win for you. You get to pick the people that are on your team and win you some money. It's fantasy football on demand. Play where you want, when you want, with those players that you want. And with $1 million up for grabs every week, every game is a big game and every play matters. So 1st and 10 in the first quarter feels like the 4th and goal with 1 second left. And a long touchdown run can mean more than just a victory for your favorite team. It can mean you just turn your love of football into $1 million payday. This isn't fantasy usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Hurry to DraftKings.com now and use promo code Spreaker to play for free for a shot at $1 million in this week's Millionaire Maker event. Enter Spreaker for free entry now, only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com. And one more time, I got to tell you, it's DraftKings.com. And if you don't know how to spell Spreaker, it's Spreaker. That's right, just enter Spreaker in there, and you get a free entry for DraftKings. So you should go all try it out right now, and tell us how you did next week. Use that hashtag F2F to let us know. So, that being said, we're done with our reading ads. Now we can get into these games. I once again, just for reference, I'm going to be watching Houston the whole season. So every time there's a Houston game, I'm going to be the one covering it. I have to deal with 2 teams that I watched last week because they're going to Carolina to play the Panthers. In a game that I think Houston might actually have a much better chance of winning than they did last week against the Chiefs. The interesting thing will be who's going to start. Hopefully Ryan Mallett is the guy that does it because I really don't have faith in Hoyer at this point. But the question that I have for you guys is Carolina is actually tied with Dallas for the longest active regular season win streak at 5. How are they doing it?
Well, it's obviously that they have all the most amazing receivers in the world, right? That's all anyone ever talks about is all these amazing receivers that Carolina has. No, it's the defense, and they've already said that Mallett is starting for Houston, and it's going to be really difficult for him to show what he did in the fourth quarter against Kansas City against the Panthers defense. To me, so I see this going to 6 games most likely. I mean, it's all about Cam Newton, trying to maintain the offense and not making too many turnovers, but I like Carolina on the defensive side.
I mean, let's not forget now, Houston's defense is no slouch. They've got that front four, that especially with J.J. Watt. I mean, he tied a career record for himself of 6 tackles for loss last week and 2 sacks. So, I mean, Cam Newton's much harder to bring down than Alex Smith. But if there's a guy that's going to be bringing him down, and he's not going to be escaping too much, I would put my faith in J.J. Watt. But what do you think, Gary, on that question?
Looking at Carolina and the fact that I'm just totally in agreement with you. I think J.J. Watt versus the Carolina offensive line, I don't see much hope for Cam Newton. The guy can run, he's quick, and he can get away. But for me personally, I'm looking at this as a situation where Houston's defense is going to be the defense to beat here.
And I think also we got to remember Jadeveon Clowney didn't really come into that game until late. I think him having a whole game to be in there, that Carolina offensive line isn't that great. I would really be worried about everybody and Vince Wilfork coming at you. Mm-hmm. That's not fun. I imagine Jonathan Stewart's going to have the same kind of day he had against Jacksonville, where he's not doing a whole lot. If Cam Newton's having to go do 20 carries again, I just can't see. I mean, other than Houston imploding on itself again, which is quite possible, we could see a game sort of like what we got here tonight, right? Very well defensive.
Yes.
I could definitely see that as well. And, it depends on Luke Kuechly, too. I think that's a big factor here.
Yeah, keeping it defensive, which team do you think gets more sacks at the end of the day?
I know you guys like Houston a lot, but I'm actually going to give this to Carolina. It's more of I don't think Ryan Mallett really has the mobility to get away from stuff. Carolina did have 5 sacks last week against Jacksonville. I see that kind of being the same thing here. Yes, Houston's going to put a lot of pressure on Cam Newton, but he can escape a little bit more. So the pressure is going to make it very tough on Cam Newton. I'm not going to say that, but as far as the total of sacks go, it's going to be difficult for him to rack those up.
I can see where Randy's coming from, but for me personally, I'm putting my money on Houston. I kind of feel I just don't have any respect for that offensive line the Panthers have. I know, you got a mobile quarterback, but we've seen in the past, just because you have a mobile quarterback doesn't mean you can avoid every sack. You got linebackers out there too.
Yeah, their secondary got lit up last week, but we're talking about much different receivers here. They do have Greg Olsen who can play the Travis Kelce role, but as we saw with the Jaguars, they don't have just big name corners either, and they were able to kind of keep things tight. I think the thing with Ryan Mallett too, if he's the one that plays, he kind of gets rid of the ball. He doesn't keep it very much, so it's going to be one of those where they're really going to have to get at him to sack him. It's not necessarily maybe having to get away from him, but it'll be interesting. I'm going to go with Houston on this too. So who do you guys got winning here?
I got the home team. I'm saying Carolina goes 2-0.
All right, I got Houston.
I'm gonna go with Houston again. Last week I was on my lonesome and I lost. Let's see if Houston doesn't make me look bad twice.
And I think the one star out of this defensive battle, I think that DeAndre Hopkins will probably be the one guy that gets the most out of this whole offense. So there you go.
Yeah, Ryan Mallett seemed to go to him a lot last week if he's the guy that, again, starts. So we shall see. Nate Washington seemed to be Hoyer's guy. So it'll be interesting to see if who wins the receiver battle again for them. Moving on, though, we got San Francisco 49ers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's Randy's first game. So it's San Francisco visiting Pittsburgh after being home last week on Monday Night Football. Pittsburgh has the extra day's rest that San Francisco doesn't. Do you think that's going to help the Steelers here?
Yeah, I'm surprised at how the schedule comes out and how I haven't really heard a lot of complaint really from San Francisco. Pittsburgh plays Thursday night. San Francisco plays the late Monday game, and now here they are playing Sunday, and it's at Pittsburgh. It's a little unfair for San Francisco, and honestly, I don't think Pittsburgh really needed it, but all that extra days rest, even though we've only played 1 week of this.
We lose Randy here?
Seems like it.
I know what Randy's saying is very true with the rest and everything you have to deal with. When it comes to getting your guys ready for a game, and it's a terrible thing, to be honest with you, when you're having to travel after already having to play one of the latest games, and the other team basically gets an extra 3 days on you. It's a bummer for that team because they've had extra time to rest, they've had extra time to game plan. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for San Francisco because Pittsburgh has a little bit of an advantage here.
You back here?
Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now you can.
Okay.
Now we can hear you.
I think I unplugged it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Technology.
Yay.
So we saw Carlos Hyde go off on the Vikings last week, and we saw the Patriots kind of go off on the Steelers defense. Do we see Carlos Hyde repeating what he did against the Vikings? Over under 100 yards for Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, I liked how Carlos Hyde looked with just the different moves and stuff. And yes, New England did go crazy on Pittsburgh, but it wasn't on the ground. I think Pittsburgh comes out here with that extra day's rest and really stuffs and focuses on Carlos Hyde, makes Kirkpatrick try to beat him. So I was going to say under for Carlos.
Yeah, I'm going under as well. I think that, when you're looking at the Pittsburgh's defense, I think the weakest point of theirs is the backfield. The secondary is just a weak point of that defense. I think the front seven is not bad. I think they're a pretty decent group, so I think it'll be under.
I'm going to go the over here. I'm going to say that, Kaepernick he showed last week or on Monday that he can certainly, he doesn't sit there and just try to run everywhere now. So I think him kind of opening the field a little bit and getting it to his receivers is going to open avenues for Carlos Hyde to be able to find some running room. And I think certainly I wouldn't be surprised if Carlos Hyde gets over the 100 yards. Do you think D'Angelo Williams has as good a game as he did against the Patriots? So.
I think he has a fair chance at it. Once again, I think it's rest factor, and I think as well as, he played a pretty good game against a team that's got a pretty decent front seven, and the Patriots. They're not the best, but they're pretty darn good. And so I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking to myself, is everything we saw with San Francisco a product of, them being that good or Minnesota being that bad? We answered that question in the last podcast, but I think that I'm going to lean on D'Angelo Williams having a pretty darn good day here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to equal exactly what he did last week, but I think it'll be pretty close.
So who's your guy to watch for this game, Gary?
This game is very interesting because, you mentioned Carlos Hyde as a guy that, you wonder if he's going to have the same success. The guy I'm looking at here, though, is not Antonio Brown, because you would think Antonio Brown right away. I think he could have some success in this game, but I think you're going to see Heath Miller have a lot of success in this game. I think if you've got a tight end, you want to look at Heath Miller if you're needing somebody, as well as we got Whedon, and he's a pretty awesome court receiver, and I think that Big Ben will be forced to use him a little bit more than Antonio Brown. So I like Whedon as well.
Fair enough. So who do you got winning here?
For me personally, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I'm with Gary. I got the Steelers.
I'm going to go away again and say the 49ers are able to get things going against Pittsburgh, and the defense kind of holds that Steelers offense down a bit, and San Francisco wins. So, moving it along, Randy has another game here. Detroit visiting Minnesota. Does Detroit's defense make Teddy Bridgewater and Peterson look as bad as San Francisco did?
Yeah, they might even make them look worse. To me, Adrian Peterson they were testing him out against San Francisco. It was more of kind of a timeshare with Asiata. Do they unleash him a little bit more in week 2? I mean, they might try, but as far as Bridgewater goes, Detroit's a tough defense. So this is going to be a tougher test than what San Francisco was, in my opinion. So it's going to be a tough go for Minnesota, but they are at home, and that always seems to be a factor for the positive.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Randy. I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking, okay, so is Adrian Peterson going to struggle against? They lost Sue, but they didn't lose a whole lot on that defensive line, and so I'm just looking at it as it's a defense he's kind of played before, not the same defense. I think Adrian Peterson will be okay. I think he'll have a better outing. I don't think it's going to be anything stellar, though. I hate to tell people it's going to be stellar because I really don't think it's going to be stellar. I think he's just going to have a better day. But I look overall, and I'm looking at this game, and I just think that, Detroit has a little bit more advantage for me personally.
I can't remember what his stats are against Detroit, but there is no Sue. So I think, that's a possibility here. I'm just, at home, Peterson's got to sit here and try to make an effort here. I certainly think they're not going to look as bad. I think Peterson's going to look better. Not that, he's going to look impressive. I don't know if he's going to have some kind of breakout game against the Lions defense either. I would worry about Bridgewater, though. Because the one thing that the Lions do have is corners, and certainly they're going to be sitting there on Cordell Patterson, on Wallace, on Charles Johnson, and making things a nightmare for Bridgewater to find where he wants to throw the ball and stuff. So I think that's going to be an issue there for him. I think Bridgewater might look just as bad, but I just think Peterson's going to have a bounce-back game, certainly. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about this, we just finished talking about Peterson, but another guy that kind of went missing in that game against San Diego. Now, obviously, he has somebody else he has to rely on. Peterson has to rely on his offensive line, but Calvin Johnson has to rely on Matthew Stafford throwing to him, which, historically he's never had an issue throwing to Calvin Johnson, but San Diego did a really good job of basically taking him out of the game. Who has the better game, Calvin Johnson or Adrian Peterson?
Yeah, I'll go with Calvin Johnson here. I mean, it was really weird. I mean, yes, San Diego completely took him out and really focused on making sure that Calvin didn't beat him, but I think he only got targeted, 4 or 5 times? So I think Stafford looks to him a little bit more this game. It'll be interesting to see if Golden Tate plays. He's questionable as the time of we do this podcast. So if he's out, then then Minnesota can focus on Calvin a little bit more. But if Golden Tate's out there and can kind of distract the Vikings defense, I see Calvin having a really big game here.
Yeah, I mean, between these two guys, I look at Calvin Johnson as being the big moneymaker here. And the reason a lot of the reasons Randy just said, but also I think that he has a lot of pride. And what did we hear after week 1? Oh, old man Calvin Johnson doesn't have it anymore, or he's slower than he used to be. And I think he's going to try to prove a point here. I think he's kind of not enjoying those reports, and he's going to try to prove that, hey, I'm still Megatron.
You got two players that are certainly trying to prove that they're nowhere near what the media is talking about them right now. So certainly this is going to be an interesting game as far as if one of these teams actually does something on that horizon. But who are you looking at here, Gary? Is it one of the two guys that we've talked about here, or is it someone else?
No, I mean, for me personally, I think if you've got Calvin Johnson in your lineup, you got to stick with him no matter what. And I think most people would intelligently. Same with Adrian Peterson. You can't go without those guys. Those guys, I think, will be the featured guys here. I think both those guys are going to work really hard in this game to prove a point. If you're going to give me somebody else that I think could be a big star in this game, I'm looking at Abdullah. I mean, just wow, what a great game in week 1. I think he can have a repeat performance in this game as well.
Yeah, Abdullah's going to be interesting to see how they deal with him. If Minnesota's going to be able to stop him, or if he's going to have a similar type game as we saw Carlos Hyde do what they did. So wonder, Abdullah's a different kind of animal. So who you got winning?
I'll take my first road team. I'm going to take Detroit to pull the small upset in Minnesota.
I got Detroit as well. I feel like they have the passion to do it.
I'm going to go, and again, road team. Probably going to make me look bad here. Detroit over the Vikings. I saw nothing from the Vikings that made me think, with a defense that's just as good, even though they are at home, makes me wonder, okay, they're going to just bounce back and play better. Bridgewater's still untested. The Lions are also coming off a loss, and they're not going to want to go down 0-2 in that division, which right now looks like Green Bay could be running away with it, if things keep going to plan, and you really don't want to leave that behind them. So I'm going to say Detroit, but I think this will be close. It'll be one of those, 24-21 games or something. So moving things along once again, we got to get to Arizona, traveling to Chicago. The Cardinals are coming off a big win against New Orleans. Chicago are coming off a close loss there to rivals Green Bay in the first game. Do we see Carson Palmer having another big performance like he did last week?
Absolutely. I mean, he's undefeated against Chicago, and listen, I'm all in with Carson Palmer. Everyone knows this. this offense is great. He has tons of weapons to go to, and this is why I had them winning the NFC West. I think they take control of this game early and just keep the foot down the entire way. I think Carson Palmer might even have a better game than last week.
I'm right there with Randy as well. I mean, I think Carson Palmer is the key here. And, in fact, my fantasy key is Carson Palmer because this guy played excellent week 1. And in this game, he's going to have so much to take advantage of. And look at the situation that he's dealing with Ellington. Chris Johnson's going to come in. They're also going to have the other Johnson. I believe his name is David Johnson. And both these guys, are decent backs. But I think that they're really going to be focused on the passing game here. And I think they're going to be able to do pretty well using it.
I'm going to third that on this. I mean, unless the Bears defense just shows up, which they did not against Green Bay, I can't imagine with all those weapons that Carson Palmer has at his disposal. Now, definitely not having the running game, like, Green Bay has Eddie Lacy who can kind of balance things out. Maybe if they become too one-dimensional, Chicago can kind of bear down on that. Maybe he doesn't have the big game like he had against New Orleans, but I think to say that he's not going to have something of sort of equal value is going to be, I don't know. I think that's a fallacy right now. Chicago's defense is certainly going to have to, do much better. So that being said, though, over under 3 touchdowns for Carson Palmer.
Definitely over.
I'll go as far as definitely. 3 is a perfect number, but I'll say over as well. I'll give him 4.
I'm gonna go on that line and say 3. Neither over nor under on mine. Gary, you gonna stick with Carson Palmer as your fantasy person?
I am. That he is the key. If you're looking for somebody else to put on your team that you may want some extra help, hey, look at Fells. I think Fells gonna have a great game in this as well.
Who you got winning?
Cardinals.
Okay, God, 4th game in a row. One of these is going to be wrong for me. I can't imagine this many away teams win in one go, but who knows?
Come on, Sean, take all 16. I guess you didn't.
Why not?
The road team won today, and you didn't take them, so take the rest of the 15. Excuse me.
Right. I'm covering that game, by the way. So we get to our first game of the week. And what a doozy this one is. New England traveling to Buffalo, a team that traditionally gives New England fits. And it's, especially Rex Ryan being at the helm here, getting another. I mean, you get Andrew Luck the first week, then you get another fantastic quarterback to go prove yourself against in week 2 in New England. Randy certainly had to be the one asking this question, since his Jets are in this division. But they are the only division that won every one of their games in week 1. Is the AFC East the best division in football right now?
I'm going to let Gary answer this since I'm the one that asked it.
No. That's a difficult question. That's why he's passing this on.
No, but I think, honestly, if you're looking at it, it's really tough this year to say certainly there's any other division that's better. I mean,
I would agree, and you're right. And looking at this, I mean, I think Buffalo is so much more improved. Now we're going off week 1, and just by what we've seen in the off season, I think Buffalo is definitely New England's right where they've always been, sticking to that. I think Miami is a team that I've got as a fighting underdog. I think they're a better team than a lot of people give them credit for. They didn't play great last week. I expect more things out of that team. But I think so. Yes, I think 3 out of the 4 of this are really good, and I think that they have a lot of potential here. I think that
the
Jets.
Love for Randy's
I think the Jets are great, but I see that these top 3. I mean, I'm so high on Miami this year, it's ridiculous. So I think Randy's Jets are going to do just fine. I think they're great. But one of these teams is going to suffer, and I with New England and Buffalo, I got everybody underneath them.
I mean, if Fitzpatrick can sort of keep managing things, and then Ivory keeps having the some great games, I think certainly you could maybe see every team in this division be at 500 or better.
Yeah, and I think that's a definite possibility.
Yeah, the reason why I asked this question, and yes, it's my Jets are in this division and stuff, but So here, take the Jets. I mean, Gary has them at the bottom of his totem pole. But you take the Jets and you take the worst team in every other division, and you can't tell me the Jets aren't better than each one of those teams.
Certainly, defensively, the Jets might be number one in the AFC East.
I mean, it's not only the toughest to kind of figure out like the pecking order. Yes, everyone's going to take the Patriots one, but really, when you're trying to figure out 2, 3, 4, it's really difficult, and it's because they're all so clumped together and really good. And like I said, I was down on Buffalo. I was kind of worried about the quarterback situation, and then their defense completely goes out and blows over Indianapolis. Miami struggles a little bit with Washington, but gets the job done. They get Jacksonville this week, so most likely they're going to go to 2-0. I mean, to me, the sign of the division kind of comes on Monday night and how the Jets do with the Colts. But yeah, I certainly think they are the best division in football right now, just because of the depth of it.
Yeah, much agreed. I definitely agree with that, because we look at other teams, and they may have 3 in their division that's good. We talk about the AFC North quite a bit, don't we? But I agree. All 4 of these teams are good, and they're going to be hard to deal with. The rest of this conference is going to really struggle.
Certainly. So, I mean, the thing that the Steelers struggled against, and what pretty much almost any team struggles against when facing the Patriots, how do you stop Rob Gronkowski? Gronk went off on the Steelers. We know that Rex Ryan loves to play with different schemes and sets and everything. How could he and the Bills' defense, which certainly went wild by Andrew Luck, stop Gronk?
That's a good question. Who is going to stop Gronk? It's amazing the connection that these two have, and I don't know. I really think that there's going to be teams all over the place trying to figure this out, because Tom Brady and Gronk are just beautiful chemistry right now.
Well, I will say this. I was looking it up real quick just to double check my stuff. Yeah, I mean, obviously a completely different team for Rex Ryan, but Sean, you said it best, dude. He loves to mix things up. Last year against the Jets, Robert Gronkowski goes 5 for 68 and then 6 for 31 and a touchdown. So nothing mind-boggling, nothing crazy. And now you have this Buffalo defense that just looks like gangbusters and really ran over Indianapolis. So Rex is going to come out and find a way to slow him down. You can never stop that guy, but at least slow him down. I know Pittsburgh came out that whole week talking about how their main goal was to slow down Gronk and get a hand on him. I guarantee you're going to see hands on Gronk this week.
Yeah. Not just hands. I think you're going to see 2 guys on Gronk. They're going to force Brady to throw to somebody else. And not just Edelman. He's going to have to find other people to throw to besides Gronk in this game. Not to mention, that defense is not going to be sitting there just letting Brady coast. That defense is going to be getting at Brady. And he's going to be flustered. That front 4 is going to be, busting him up. So it's going to be interesting to see how Brady and the Patriots deal with this offensively. The defense didn't look... At times they looked good against the Steelers, but there was other times where the Steelers were, certainly torching them. You have to wonder if Brandon Marshall, another game under his belt with Fitzpatrick, if he's going to be able to go off on these Jets here, or not on the Jets, on the Patriots. But getting back to Gronk for a little bit here, I don't know how you score half a TD, Randy, but...
Well, no, you put your over-under with a half, so you don't have a push. So you have to say over or under. There's no push.
So over or under 1.5 TDs for Gronk?
I'm going to say under. I don't know. He might get one because it's just Gronk and that's what he does, but I don't even think he gets any.
Yeah, I'll go under too. I'm right there with you. I think Gronk's going to have a decent game. I believe when I'm talking about, when we just talked about it, who's going to stop Gronk? No one will stop Gronk, but they'll limit him. And I think Buffalo's defense is really, really good, and I feel like that they can keep him out of the red end zone.
I'm going to go under as well. I think he gets one, but it'll be one of those where it's in the red zone and somebody loses sight of him or something, and he happens to be the one there for the grab. I don't think it's going to be one of those long down the field pass things where he runs 50 yards and gets in the end zone or anything. That's going to be interesting to me. Prediction, man. Once again, God, wow. I think I didn't balance this out when I sat here and did these picks. Honestly, New England, I'm taking them. I think they showed the world that they are still the Patriots after game one. The Bills are certainly nobody to mess with. This is going to be a tight game. I don't think we're going to be seeing high-scoring, crazy affair here, but I don't know that Tyrod Taylor is the quarterback to get in a shootout with Tom Brady, certainly, if it goes that way. I'm going to say the Patriots, but I'm going to say like by 3 or something.
Ooh, you know what? I'm going to go on the flip on that. I think the home team actually gets this one. I think it's going to be a very, very close game, like you said, Sean, and I think a lot of people are going to think that, Tom Brady's going to pull it out, but I think this could be the first stumble for the Patriots, and I think everybody's going to be looking at the Bills as one of the best teams in the league. I got the Bills.
See, I waited and let Gary pick so I could make the big upset, and he beats me to it. No, I'm taking Buffalo at home, too. I don't think there's going to be a shootout where Tyrod Taylor has to worry about it. LaShawn McCoy has an extra week to be healthy, so they can lean on him quite a bit. And I think the Bills, again, like Sean said, this is going to be a very close game, but I think the Bills hold on and win it.
Certainly if the Bills win this game, they are for real, I have to say. So, moving on to another game that Randy is covering, San Diego going into Cincinnati. Which quarterback do you trust more to make a deep run in the playoffs? Andy Dalton or Phillip Rivers? Certainly not Andy Dalton. That guy can't even win a playoff game.
But can you trust Phillip Rivers either?
I can certainly trust him because he knows what to do in those kind of situations where you have to come back and win or whatever. I don't trust Andy Dalton for anything.
Yeah. That's the way I've always felt too. When you play a red ball, you try to get things done, but half the time it doesn't work out. Some of the times it works out okay, and a very small percentage is a game busters for Andy Dalton.
I'll say the only thing that you can say for certain about Phillip Rivers, you feel confident that if his team is losing, he will have the best scowl on anyone on his team.
True.
Well, Andy Dalton just sits there motionless. That's fine. But
no, I'd go with Phillip Rivers. I mean, I guess in a way, you go back and look at 2013, Phillip Rivers did beat Andy Dalton, so there you go. I'd give it to Phillip.
Well, surprisingly, I'm going to ask a true or false question. I didn't know we were going back to school with these true or false questions here, but apparently we are. Andy Dalton, or not Andy Dalton, 30. Who's getting it? The winner will get more than 33 points. Both teams had 33 points last week against the teams that they won. Or they beat. Oh man, I can't talk today. The winner of this game will have more than 33 points. True or false?
True. I will say true. And I think it's more on the running game. You're going to see a lot of Jeremy Hill. You're going to see a lot of Melvin Gordon and Woodhead, and quarterbacks doing their thing too. And hell, Keenan Allen with 17 catches last week. I think both offenses are red hot. So I'm going to say over on here.
Ooh, and it just has to be one team, so I'll go over if it's just one team. If it's both teams, I would go under.
I'll go over. I think this is certainly going to be your shootout game of the week. I think if we get one here, so I'll say. Yeah, I'll go 30. Yeah, whatever. True. It'll be over 33 points. So Gary, who's your person to watch? I don't think we even did one for the last game.
The person to watch for the New England Patriots for me is Dion Lewis. I think we saw quite a bit of what he could do in the first week. I think you're going to see more, especially with Gronk getting covered so well, and the rest of the receivers for the Patriots getting covered pretty decently. I think he's going to be a big key. Definitely use him out of the slot different ways. They're going to basically, he's the new Danny Woodhead, Shane Vereen. When the games are difficult, they're going to lean on him. So that's the way I feel about that one. And in this one, I mean, this is a difficult game because I think what you guys said, it's going to have a lot of scoring. I think my featured player, though, is going to definitely be Jeremy Hill. I think that he's going to have a wonderful day here, and I think that he could be a big factor on why Cincinnati could or could, not win this game. If he doesn't do well, I think that could really, really hurt their chances. But I think he's going to do great.
I think watch out for Stevie Johnson in another week here. He came on and did really great for them last week. Wouldn't be surprised. Another one here for him. So we move again to Tennessee visiting Cleveland. So Tennessee starts the year off going away for the first 2 games.
You got to do your picks first, Sean.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the picks. Sorry.
I want to hear about your road team again.
I'm picking the Bengals, actually.
It's messed up.
So, my streak ends there, even though it starts again with the next game. The Bengals, I think, got a little bit too much. I mean, these teams are stacked even on paper. I think Jeremy Hill has more in the tank than Melvin Gordon at this point. Giovanni Bernard and Woodhead kind of balance each other out. You got certainly better offensive. I mean, you got the one big star in A.J. Green, so they're going to have to figure out how to stop him. You got Tyler Eifert, I think, is going to be the big guy that we're not even talking about in this game. He showed he is a star in the making for Bengals against the Raiders. And I don't know that the Chargers are going to be able to have somebody to stop him.
No, I agree with you. I have the Bengals winning this game as well.
Yeah, the Bengals for all the reasons you stated, Sean, and I just don't trust the defense of San Diego. Otherwise, they'd be my pick.
So now we move on to Tennessee visiting the Cleveland Browns. Right now, we still don't know. Josh McCown has not officially passed the concussion protocol, so we still don't know right now who's playing or who's going to be starting in that game. I think, honestly, the fact that Cleveland keeps talking about it, they're going to try everything they can to get Josh McCown to start in that game. I wouldn't be surprised if he does start, but I think the quarterback on the other team is one we need to focus on here. How much of what we saw from Mariota last week is real? We do need to keep in mind that the Browns have a much better defense, and they have Joe Hayden as one of their corners. He's going to be locked on to one of those receivers that Mariota was freely passing to last week. What do you think here?
Well, I think, his stats are definitely going to be down. This is going to be his test of can now Mariota, control a game. Can he go out there and not make the mistakes and make sure that he doesn't cost his team the win? Because I think they have the better team than Cleveland, and he's definitely the better quarterback of whoever is going to start for Cleveland. But for him this week, it's all about don't turn the ball over. Don't make the mistakes. Rely on your running game. Bishop Sankey is going to be great in this game. And just do the small things. And if he can do that and show his depth as a quarterback, he's going to go very far.
All right, Gary.
I'm looking at this game, and I'm so excited for Mariota. That's how he likes to pronounce it. That's apparently the professional way. So Mariota, to me, is a week's worth of greatness. Is it second week worth of greatness? We're going to find out. I think in this game he could be very well on the pathway that he already started. But, I think once again, Randy stated a few things. It's true about quarterbacks, they've got to keep their feet and their head underneath them. They got to make sure that they're not making the mistakes because maybe they take it too lightly or maybe they don't understand some of the schemes. So I'm looking at this game, and I think that Mariota is still going to be strong. But, we may not see the 4 touchdowns we saw last week.
So, for the Browns, they were supposed to be this rushing team, right? They trade Terrence West, so they're stuck with Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson. And the guys that were the leading rushers for the team last week were their quarterbacks. The Josh McCown got hurt on a running play, and then Manziel, we saw him doing his thing. Who's going to be the position that's leading rusher for the Browns this week?
That's a pretty weird question. I mean, but just that stat last week just really jumped out. If Manziel starts, it might be the quarterback again because, I mean, really that the position at running back is very much in question for Cleveland. Crowell didn't show much. Duke Johnson showed some in the little bit of action that he played, and I think he is the running back to look for, down the line. But I think if Manziel starts, the answer to this question is the quarterback.
Yeah, I can definitely see that the quarterback could be the leading rusher, possibly with Manziel. I think that you look at the running backs for Cleveland. Crowell does a decent job himself, and pretty much the lead guy. And Duke Johnson is definitely the future. I think right now, leading rusher, I think Crowell still takes the most of the load.
I think Crowell does take most of the load for this, certainly. But I think by the end you'll be seeing Duke Johnson. I think Randy hit it on the head. If we're talking about Manziel starting, then definitely he's a leading rusher because I'm sure he's not going to stop his running tendencies in 1 week. So he's going to be a leading rusher if he starts. If he doesn't, I think they just don't have a leading rusher at all.
Yeah. Just a note, if Manziel's the leading rusher, it'll be for 2 weeks until he's on IR.
Certainly the Titans' defense is not... I mean, they're not anything to scoff at all here. Who's your player to watch, Gary?
The player to watch definitely has to be Mariota. I mean, it's simple as it is. Last week, we got a chance to see him play great, and I think that Cleveland's defense is not exactly the defense that everybody's excited about, or that they have a lot of talent. They do have talent on the team, just like Jacksonville has talent, and of course, Hayden and guys like that. I'll definitely be trying to shut him down, but I think there's going to be enough success there for him to be the guy. I think all the receivers on this team are equally good, so I think that he's going to be centrally the best guy. I don't believe in Sankey.
And I want to go ahead and give a shout out. I forgot to do this at the beginning of the show. It's pretty much nobody knows him but me and Gary. He goes to Gary's church. Used to be my church, but he plays in one of our fantasy leagues with us. Who knows? He could listen to the show one day, but him and his wife just had their first child earlier today, I guess. So congratulations to them, Mr. Andrew Frazier and his wife Katie. That's pretty awesome.
Big props.
Always.
Yep.
But we got to make a prediction here. Is Tennessee for everybody, or you think Cleveland might? Oh, before we do this, if Manziel starts, does he throw a touchdown this week?
Yes.
Yeah, I would go with that as well. I think he'll find a way to get in the end zone, even if it's rushing. But I think passing a touchdown is possible.
I think we see one, at least, if he starts. So, prediction. I'm going with the road team again with Tennessee here. I think a little bit of that stuff we saw from Mariota is real. He obviously has no problems throwing it to whoever is open, which is a plus. He's not sitting there looking for one guy, which is a trait you see a lot in rookie quarterbacks and whatnot. So the fact that he's spreading around the field and all that stuff, it doesn't matter who Joe Hayden's covering. It doesn't matter who's being covered. He's just going to find the open guy, and that's what you need when you're trying to progress down the field. So I'm going to say Tennessee here.
I'm going Tennessee too.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so we get into another Atlanta Falcons are facing another NFC East team here. They're traveling to MetLife Stadium as the Giants are home against the Atlanta Falcons. Is the Atlanta defense for real?
Yeah, I think they are, especially on the run game, which is a big surprise to me. I did pick this team to win the division, but it wasn't because of their defense. The new coaching staff has really come in there and put a new mindset in there and a new scheme that really seemed to work against Philadelphia. So they're going to be difficult for any offense to figure out the rest of the year.
I definitely think that right now, as it stands, they are for real. I mean, what we saw on Monday night, to me, was not a fluke. I feel like they've got a lot of talent on this defense, a lot of underrated talent. One guy on that defense is Justin Durant. Just an adamant, talented linebacker who helps his team. And I know for a fact that he's guiding those guys along because he's a great veteran. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, we are going to get some great games out of them, and I think this week is definitely one because what they're working with. But it just amazes me how the turnaround for the Atlanta defense has come.
I definitely think Atlanta's for real. Dan Quinn being there, he's already shown it. I mean, Philadelphia is a team that if you're doing this against them, you're for real immediately because, we did see Philadelphia do this whole being slow in the first half and then picking up in the second half kind of deal a lot last year. But they came up big in the moments that mattered. The interception at the end shows the defense is there. The running game could not get off at all for the Eagles. It was all just in short passes and the stuff the running backs that they're able to get anything. So I think definitely Atlanta's already improved. And as they mentioned on that Monday night game, it's not like he just went and got a bunch of talent on that defense. He took the talent that was already there and just being Dan Quinn and talking them up and making them feel like they're better than they are. They did much better. And against the Giants, and if Victor Cruz is still out again, if they can just hone on Odell Beckham and force Eli to have to make decisions he doesn't want to, I think they're going to have a much simpler game here on defense against the Giants. That being said, we saw what happened with Atlanta and the Giants. Atlanta won in the last few minutes. We saw the Giants lose to the Cowboys. Will the last lead change in the game happen with less than 5 minutes to go in this game? Or will one of the teams have it in hand?
Yes, me. I think this game will be in hand. I wouldn't even be shocked if this game isn't in hand by halftime. I just really think that the Giants have a lot of struggles, a lot of things they're working through. I look at the way that basically Atlanta took care of such a great talented offense, and I just look at the Giants offense and where they're at and the situations they're dealing with, especially their struggling offensive line. Dallas really did not take advantage of everything they should have taken advantage of on this offensive line of what the Giants are dealing with. So I'm looking at the by halftime, I expect there to be a double-digit lead.
I'll say this. One name here, Julio Jones. I think that's all you got to say, because that defense did not deal with Des Bryant really at all last week. They didn't know what they had with. They didn't have to deal with the receivers, with the number one receiver. They're going to have to deal with that number one receiver, and they don't have anybody that's going to cover Julio Jones.
I'm kind of with you, but I think it'll be a little bit of a closer game than you guys are giving it credit for. So I'll say the lead changes in the last 5 minutes.
All right, fair enough. To that point, we have seen Matt Ryan does throw interceptions quite often. So, and that's one thing the Giants took advantage of with Tony Romo last week. So, that's something to watch for there. Your fantasy person.
Definitely, you got to look at Matt Ryan as having a great day here. I don't think there's a pass rush here for the Giants, and so I think he's going to have all day to stand back there and look around. I think if you want to go with Tavon Coleman as well, I think that he's going to have a pretty decent day. But I think the star of the game has to be Matt Ryan, because he's not just going to get the ball to Julio, which I think Julio is going to have 2 touchdowns himself. But I think we're going to see multiple chances for him to get the ball out there.
Prediction? Did we all kind of give it away here?
Atlanta.
Nope, give me the upset. Taking the Giants with a last-minute win.
It's brave. Very brave, Randy.
It's that home field advantage. I'm a sucker for it.
All right, St. Louis travels to Washington. Washington somehow got the luck of the draw of being at home for the first 2 games, which really doesn't matter to them at all, since that team is just terrible. But how bad does that goes on to this first question. How bad does Alfred Morris wish he was on another team?
I'm sure very badly.
Yeah, I really don't have that. We have to go into a grade like excellent to poor. Like,
yeah.
just
No, I mean, I think a lot of the team members of his are wanting to be on the team, and I hate to say that. I mean,
hey,
because
Deshaun Jackson strained his hamstring, so he doesn't hurt himself anymore for this team.
yeah, he's like, hey, if I get free agency, I want to be healthy. No, I mean, look at this situation that they're in. I mean, it's tough. They know they're rebuilding. They know they're working through things, and it's tough to be a part of a team like that when you really want to win every year. Athletes are competitive.
Yeah, it's pretty sad that, I mean, yes, the defense played a bit better against Miami and kept it close, but really, especially with Deshaun Jackson now, the only person on offense that is anywhere near good is Alfred Morris. I mean, yes, Pierre Garçon has some talent, but he's getting up there, and the only reason people even talk about him is because he's on Washington, and he's the only guy you can go to. So, yeah, absolutely. I think he would love to be on any other team but Washington. I mean, not even just because of the talent, but because of all of the off-field drama and all the junk that he has to deal with and all the questions he has to field and has to deal with, like, all this RG3 drama. It's like he would rather go to Jacksonville, which is probably a worse team talent-wise right now, but at least he wouldn't have the drama.
Yeah.
I would disagree with you on that. Jordan Reed is someone you also want to be throwing the ball to if you're Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, as long as he can keep the pipe out of his mouth, he's fine.
Well, taking the pipe out of his mouth, since he's certainly not going to be having that while he's playing the game.
You never know. Just saying.
He was big for them in the previous game, so I would look out for him here. With Deshaun Jackson out, will the Redskins top 150 yards passing?
No, I think... What was it, last week with him, they topped it.
He was out in the first series. That I don't even know if you can count.
Okay, like I said, this was a game I got to watch, so I don't know when he went out because that was your game. But, yeah, I mean, 196 yards against Miami at home, I see nowhere near that. Under 150 for me.
St. Louis is going to be having Cousins run for his life. I really wouldn't want to be Kirk Cousins in this game, honestly.
No. Yeah, definitely under 150 for sure.
Gary, who are you watching?
You know what? Looking at this game, I mean, I just don't think you can find anybody on the Redskins. Sure, Jordan Reed, did a wonderful job, but we're talking about the St. Louis defense here, so I don't even look at Alfred Morris as being a contender here. I'm looking at all St. Louis Rams, and for me personally, I mean, I'm not sold on Nick Foles, never have been. I think the one guy that you can point out here, and especially if your fantasy football team allows kick returns along with your receiving for the receivers, I would have to say Tavon Austin would be a great choice for you. I think Austin could have a huge game here, big surprise. Not only that, I think if you can get the defensive unit for the Rams this year, go ahead and go grab them now. I'm sure they're not out there on your waiver wire, but if they are, pick them up.
Also look out for Trey Mason. He's ready to go.
Yeah, he is. And, we don't know if Todd Gurley's going to be back. That's the only reason I'm not picking running backs out of this, because if Todd Gurley gets back in the game, there's a chance they're going to use him.
Is he? I thought they said he's not playing until week 4.
Well, they're still going back and forth, so we're kind of waiting it out.
Oh, we forgot to... Do you think Arian Foster plays? We didn't...
No, I don't think Arian plays this week.
No, not this week.
It's good to see him practice, though.
So, we move on to... I forgot to note that if Randy's covering Atlanta and New York, I'm stuck with watching the Redskins again because I didn't watch St. Louis last week, so...
And we're all taking St. Louis, I'm sure, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we all taking St. Louis? Yeah. So, I'm doing the Dolphins, obviously, against Jacksonville, in Jacksonville. I think that's 2 home games straight for Jacksonville here. Were they? They were at home last week, right? Against Carolina? Right? I think. Anyway, is it okay for Blake Bortles to be calling fans kindergartners? This seems like when, still a wrestling term, this is like when, wrestlers start disparaging the internet fans for knowing too much or whatever. I think anytime you have football players now disparaging fans at this point, unless fans are just way obscenely on one side, just being unbearable, to sit there and say that your team did anything well last week other than your defense keeping you in it at times and TJ Yeldon looking okay is absurd, honestly, for me. But whatever, dude.
Yeah. I don't think it's any good doing anything like this, calling your fans names, making things like this, out there, putting it out there, tweeting things like this. It's to me, you're calling someone else immature, but to me, it's immature you doing that. Be professional.
Yeah, listen, this is just one of those things where, listen, I'm sure most of the football players think it. I mean, we can sit here and talk about football, but we don't know the inner workings of all these plays or all that stuff. We just can talk about what we see, and that's what we are. We're just stating our opinions. We're not calling ourselves experts or anything like that. But when you're sitting here on a team like Jacksonville and you're really struggling, something like that's just going to pop out, and you have to try to find your way to be able to control yourself. I think my favorite thing in his entire quote was saying that, the direct quote was, "It's like a kindergartner saying something to a college kid." Well, Blake Bortles, stop playing like a college kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, the Panthers' defense was in his face constantly, keeping him from being able to really do a whole lot. And he did have receivers that dropped the ball quite often, which is also not his fault.
No, and I'm just saying, again, I was high on Jacksonville. I still kind of am. I would like to see them get going, especially on the offensive side. Not record-wise or anything, but offensively, I like a lot of their weapons. So I would like to see them get going. But just as far as that quote goes, it was just keep it to yourself.
My computer decided to freak out on me all of a sudden. So, what is the thing? Oh, here we go. True or false? Ndamukong Suh will have a sack in this game.
He didn't have one last week. I'm going to say he has one this week. I think Bortles is used to running away from danger, and Suh's hungry. He wants one.
I'll go true as well.
I'm going to go true on that as well. Who are you looking at for this game?
I think Jacksonville, will have guys like Robinson running the ball pretty okay. I don't really see anything too exciting, though, because I think the Miami defense is, still pretty tough. So I'm not expecting a whole lot out of anything on offense when it comes to Jacksonville. So I'm going to focus on what we get in the Miami Dolphins offense. I think Landry will have a good day, and I think most of all, I think Lamar Miller gets a chance to bounce back here and have a better day than he did last week. So I think my featured guy would have to be Lamar Miller.
They kind of kept Jonathan Stewart contained last week, and even Redskins kind of kept Lamar Miller contained last week. I'd be careful on that. If you're the Dolphins, I wonder if the guy I'm looking at, Tannehill has to have a much better game. I guess he's more consistent.
You guys are too high on Tannehill. Don't start Tannehill. For the team
to do anything, for the team to go anywhere this year, Tannehill has to have a much better game than he did against the Redskins.
Yeah, but no one trusts that fantasy advice. Do not take Tannehill in your leagues.
I'd rather have Tannehill than Bortles. How about that?
I agree.
Yeah.
There you go. And if you're depending on either of these guys, you've already lost your league anyway. So.
Fair enough. Apparently Randy just completely goofed and forgot that there was another game on the schedule here. Since we haven't talked about Jameis Winston yet, Tampa Bay is traveling to New Orleans to play the Saints. Both teams are coming off a loss. Obviously, Tampa Bay is coming off the shellacking that they received. Does Jameis Winston have a better game than he did last week?
Well, I will go out on a limb and say that Jameis Winston has a better first throw than he had last week. That's as far as I'm going.
Yeah, I don't think Winston's there yet. Even against New Orleans defense, I don't think he's there yet.
Yeah, I mean, he did get 2 touchdowns, so, it's not like he didn't throw anything. I mean, I think 2 touchdowns is right around where he'll get this game. Possibly with the Saints defense, you might get 3. I'll go with 2 on that.
Yeah, but how many of those are going to be junk time touchdowns?
Mm-hmm.
True. So, over under. Who has the better game, Doug Martin or whoever's running for the Saints?
Ingram. No, I think I don't know. Me personally, I think Doug Martin's great. I still may lean on Ingram. I don't think that Drew Brees is going to have this game on his back.
No, I think the Saints are going to run the ball a ton in this game because they're going to be up. And watch out, C.J. Spiller is supposed to be back, and he's going to be thrown into that offense pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was the X factor for me. C.J. Spiller comes back. I think that changes their offense a bit here. He can get thrown they can throw passes to him, and he can certainly break things open for the Saints. Is he going to be your player to watch, Gary, if he plays, or you got somebody else in mind here?
No, I think you're exactly right. I think C.J. Spiller is the player to watch because he's a dual factor here. Ingram's a great player. I mean, you definitely, if you have him, start him somewhere in your lineup. So, I wouldn't maybe have him as RB1, maybe running back 2. But C.J. Spiller is definitely right alongside him, and he's going to catch lots of passes. So if you are a fan of PPR, use him in that for sure.
All right, who you got winning?
Oh, Saints are the lock of the week.
I got Saints.
Saints? How about them Saints? Who that? The Raiders are wondering who's going to play quarterback for them this week. If Derek Carr's going to come back from that bruised hand. And then the Ravens are now without Terrell Suggs for the year. Ravens are visiting Oakland. Oakland gets to play the first 2 games at home. This is one of those things I definitely, if I'm Baltimore, I'm feeling much better about this game after what happened last week. Do we think that pretty much what happened with Terrell Suggs ends their playoff hopes for the Ravens?
Yeah, I know a lot of people were high on Baltimore, and I know I wasn't, but listen, the offense looks really bad, which looks a bit better now with what Denver did against Kansas City tonight. Maybe, we were all a little bit harder on, I was a little bit harder on the Baltimore offense, and, obviously they're going to torch Oakland, but they need that defense to survive. I mean, you can't rely on Joe Flacco to carry that team all the way through the regular season. So to me, losing somebody like Terrell Suggs really hurts your playoff hopes. And when I had them down already, to me, I think it does end it.
I was one of the guys who had him higher, and to me, Suggs, the heartbeat of that defense. They always have depended on the defense to help the offense. Now they're going to take that hit. I see him out of the playoff picture now.
I would agree with that as well. It's going to take a Herculean effort from Joe Flacco and that offense, I think, to really get things going. That being said, the Baltimore offense did not score an offensive touchdown last week. Did they score over under 1.5 offensive touchdowns against Oakland?
I say over and then probably make it 4. I think they blow this team out.
Yep, I'm over on it too.
If McGloin plays, it's definitely 4. If Carr plays, I'm going to say 3.
If McGloin plays, make it 3 because you're going to have 2 defensive touchdowns. Which makes me really sad that I took Oakland as a possible upset last week against Cincinnati. But
we all did
I've
on
my
the podcast. So, Gary, who you watching in this game?
Once again, here's a defensive unit. Yeah, sure, they lost Suggs, but I think this defensive unit could have a beautiful day for your fantasy team. And, why not? Why don't you give little Flacco a little bit of love? Because this week you can be wacko for Flacco, and it'll be good.
All right, Baltimore for everybody?
yes.
All right, the game of the week for 4 o'clock, obviously. Comparing, when you got the other 2 4 o'clock games. Dallas Cowboys visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. No Dez Bryant. DeMarco Murray playing his old team this quickly. He says he's going to have to fight emotions here. Oh man, I'm sitting here. We already had this question, so I'm having to think in my head. Do the Eagles have another slow start?
Not for me. I think the Eagles get on their game. They try to break what they had last week, and they really try to come out swinging here. I think that the first drive they get a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm with Gary. I think it's going to be difficult for Dallas. I mean, yes, they lost Dez Bryant and stuff, but the Eagles showed that they could get things going a little bit in the second half. I think they take that, work on a few things. This is a divisional opponent. Obviously, DeMarco Murray is very motivated, so I think Philadelphia jumps on him pretty early.
Gary, are you disappointed they didn't go sign somebody that has a little bit of a name factor?
Disappointed is not really, I think, in my vocabulary right now. I think only because there's no veteran receiver out there right now that can help them immediately. Hakeem Nicks is banged up still, even though he's not playing anywhere. The other guys that they had up there really are not an improvement. So I don't think that. I think they're going with a younger player that they traded for this week, and I think that younger player is maybe later down the line going to help them. But right now, what they got is what they got. I know they know that.
Yeah, look out for more Gavin Escobar.
There you go.
In this game.
Lance Dunbar.
Do what?
Lance Dunbar as well.
Yeah, Lance Dunbar, I'm sure. Maybe McFadden going out there for passes more in this one, too. That being said, I said DeMarco Murray's coming back. Over under 100 yards for DeMarco Murray against his old team.
Are we talking rushing yards or all-purpose yards?
Well, rushing yards, obviously.
I'll say under rushing yards. I think they get it to him in the passing game a bit more.
Yeah, I agree. The passing game is going to be the one, so rushing and under.
Under on rushing because, Cowboys are going to be wanting to make sure they stuff Mr. Murray. They don't want him going off on his old team, even though, Murray's going to be motivated. It's going to be interesting. Definitely for sure. Who are you watching in this game, Gary?
I think when you look at Philadelphia, Sam Bradford is going to be ready, and they're going to have him getting the ball out. I think they're going to run the ball a few here, but right now this year, until we see more from what Philadelphia is planning on doing with that offense, I don't think you can trust any of these three running backs to be a featured guy on your any team when you got fantasy-wise, DraftKings, or even in your weekly games. I look at the situation being it's going to be on Bradford's back. I think he's going to have a pretty awesome day, and I think when you talk about the Dallas Cowboys, look for Lance Dunbar to be a sleeper that you could put in your PPR leagues and probably do pretty okay.
I did have one more question. Does Bradford or Romo throw an interception that decides the game?
No, and I hate to say it to you guys, but I think this game is decided before any interceptions really change anything.
Yeah, I don't see an interception either. I think that both quarterbacks could have interceptions, but I don't think it's going to be a game changer.
All right, who you got?
I got the Eagles.
I sadly have the Eagles as well.
I do too. I trifecta that, and not because I don't think it's going to be a close game. I think it's closer than what people think. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think right now with the hits that Dallas has, it's going to be on the Philadelphia side.
All right, so we get to Sunday Night Football, which we all got to watch. Obviously, a rematch of the NFC Championship game. Seattle going to Green Bay this time. How much does Lambeau Field change this matchup?
I think it changes it a ton. I mean, yes, I'm a big component of home field advantage, but it really is a bigger thing when you talk about these two teams. I mean, when you list like the top 5 teams with the best home field advantage, these two are easily in maybe even the top 2. So to change the venue and get pro Packer supporters instead of Seahawks fans and how loud both these guys can get, I think it's a big difference.
Jerry?
Lambeau Field is a tough place to play. I mean, yeah, sure, it's not super cold up there right now, so that kind of lends towards Seattle having an okay day. But it's such a difficult place to play because of the history, the fans. I mean, the fans are rabid. So I think Seattle thinks that they have a great home field advantage, but I think the Packers have a pretty darn good one themselves.
Certainly, Lambeau Field changes things up. I mean, playing there is a huge get always for Green Bay. We know how much Seattle playing with the 12th man is a big deal for them, so obviously having to go on the road, it's a much different deal for Seattle, obviously. So, yeah, definitely this is a big thing for Green Bay. Plus, they didn't have to go anywhere since the first game was in Green Bay. So, Seattle has to be, right?
Green Bay was in Chicago.
Oh, okay, never mind. Well, Green Bay still doesn't have to really travel that much. It's not that far from, Chicago or Illinois, Wisconsin. But Seattle was in St. Louis last week, right? It was in St. Louis? Or am I wrong, Randy?
Yeah, it was in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Seattle went home. They had to go to Green Bay and do all that stuff. But Seattle's defense certainly did not prove to be the Legion of Boom that they have been, and Green Bay's did step up there at the end against Chicago with Clay Matthews getting that pretty much game-winning interception. Which defense steps it up and makes the big play? Is it the Green Bay again, or does Seattle finally get it together without Cam Chancellor for another week?
Now, Cam Chancellor is such a huge loss for that team. I think the Packers make the bigger play, and they're the better side of the ball in this game.
I know it's been overstated a million times, but Cam Chancellor really is like the thing that makes that defense go. I really didn't want to have to use the stupid heartbeat word that everybody's been freaking using. But he is that thing. He is the boom in the Legion of Boom, and so I just don't think wasn't it the guy that replaced him was the one that got burned on the big play for St. Louis. So certainly, I don't think it's going to be Seattle. I think even it's hurting the offense, honestly. Just what's going on. Everybody is just messed up. All the stuff with the people not getting paid and all that's coming into fruition. I think here it's going to be the Packers. Perhaps maybe it's not even a defensive thing that decides this. Maybe it's just the Packers, maybe it's Aaron Rodgers. What do you think, Randy?
Yeah, I don't think it's any secret that I think Green Bay is the favorite in this game, both sides of the ball. I think Aaron Rodgers has a really big game especially against like a Seattle defense. Usually you look at it and go, oh, this is going to be tough. But again, home field debut and all of these crazy games that they had, and I'm sure that they've had this thing circled down since they blew that lead in the playoffs. And I think Green Bay comes out on a complete mission.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the same thing. I think Green Bay wants this game. They think it's a very important game, and Seattle definitely doesn't want to lose it. But I think that there's a better chance of the Packers being successful here.
So the Packers have recorded at least one sack in each of their last 37 games played, which is the longest active streak in the NFL. Russell Wilson has taken a sack in 24 straight games, which is also the longest active streak among quarterbacks. Over or under 3.5 sacks by the Packers defense in this game.
I'm sorry, I found that stat and I just loved it. It's just one of those goofy stat nerd things. But I'll take the over. I think the Packers try to put a lot of pressure on him, not let him have really much time in there. Find a way to cover Jimmy Graham, which will probably be his main target early on in plays, and try to make him scramble a little bit. So I'm going to say over on this.
Ooh, I'll just be different here. I'll go under.
I'm going to go under, too. I think, we saw Russell Wilson kind of get out of the pocket and do things against Green Bay before. They didn't have Jimmy Graham last year. Jimmy Graham is a big person to have to defend. And putting one of your, you having to take away one of your linebackers to have to defend him is a big deal. I'm going to say under on this. Gary, who you watching for this?
I think Graham's going to have a great game in here. I mean, I think that, it's not going to help them win the game. But I think Graham's going to have a pretty awesome game because of that fact that the Packers are going to be trying to get on Russell Wilson, and I think he's going to have to throw the ball out quick, and Graham's the guy to get to. So I think that if you're looking on Green Bay side, Aaron Rodgers is going to have a wonderful day himself.
I got Green Bay.
Yeah,
Same
me
here.
too.
So Seattle goes 0-2, which, is going to have everybody freaking yelling and screaming in the media. Just the way we like it. So everybody can go crazy. So Monday Night Football, just one game this week, thankfully. New York Jets traveling to Indianapolis Colts. Colts are at home, so hopefully their fortunes change here. Can the Jets defense, though, come close to duplicating what Buffalo did to Indianapolis last week?
I hope so. I really do. It will help with if T.Y. Hilton doesn't play, because that kind of will help the fact that Cromartie is out for a few weeks. So then you can put Revis on Andre Johnson, and then they have to really look for like Moncrief and stuff like that. Don't look for the Colts to really have any kind of a running attack against the Jets. That's the strength for the Jets defense. So it really comes down to Andrew Luck, who is out for mission. And as a Jets fan, I really kind of wish that the Colts would have went out and just blew up Buffalo, so then I would feel a little bit better about it. It's just one of those goofy things that I have in my head that is completely false and it's not even real, but I just worry about the team that gets beat by a team that they think they should beat, and then they go into next week on a mission, and it's a silly thing to think about, but as a Jets fan, I always look at the negative, so I really hope they can duplicate it. If they do, they have a chance to win this game, but I'm afraid they won't be able to.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, I'm with Randy on this, and I don't think we're going to see anything out of the Indianapolis running game for sure. I really feel like Andrew Luck is going to be the guy that they have to put this whole offense on. It's going to be on his shoulders. It's going to be up to him to see if he can win this game. And I think he'll have some moderate success. I don't think he's going to light anybody up. I don't think anything like that at all. I think it's going to be a dink and dunk game. I think it's going to be a 5-yard pass here, maybe if they're lucky, a 7 to 13-yard pass here or there. So it's going to be a slow game, and in fact, I don't even expect it being that high of scoring.
Yeah, Jets defense is going to come. I don't know if they're going to do the exact same Buffalo did, but I don't know if Frank Gore is going to really be doing anything. It's just defense. The T.Y. Hilton's going to be banged up. And Andre Johnson looks slow. I don't know that the Jets defense is going to make him. They're going to make him look slower, if that's even possible. So I don't know that the Jets defense, if they don't come close, something went horribly wrong. There's this philosophy in the media that you always are looking for the bounce back game after you lose. There is that old adage that it's easier to come back from a loss than it is to come back from a win, because you're on such a high after the win that the come up is much harder to go by, and it's also that's why a lot of people always say that they'd much rather get blown out than lose in the heartbreaker. So there was a thing with the Colts that I noticed just looking up something here that Randy asked me. In the first 2 years of Andrew Luck, every year that they've had Andrew Luck, they went 11-5. The first 2 years, they never lost 2 games in a row. Last year, they started 0-2. They lost the Broncos and the Eagles, and then they went on the run that they went on. So, do you think the idea of a bounce back game actually exists, or is this just a thing made up by the media? And just keep in mind that stat that I gave you, that it obviously seems to work for the Colts.
Yeah, I've already kind of mentioned it a little bit before. It's one of those things where I feel like it exists, but I feel stupid feeling like it exists at the same time. Like the words come out of my mouth and I believe them, but the other part of my brain is cussing me out for saying them, kind of thing.
It's almost like that thing where people say that team wanted it more than the other team.
Yeah, which is
that,
it's
but you see it in games, like literally, you see it and you're like, well, this can't be an invention of the media. This actually happens amazingly.
Yeah,
which is dumb, but it happens.
Yeah, it's like, listen, we're all humans. They're all humans. You're going to have good days and bad. It's not about lack of effort. It's just some days you just don't have it. Some days you do. Sometimes everything's flowing. Sometimes, you just get out there and you don't have the energy that you usually do, and it really affects. And it's just one of those weird things. And we always want to know the reason why. We have to have an answer to everything. Sometimes you just have a bad day, and we would like to make it, it's a bounce back. So now they're going to come out and just, fires going and all that. It's like, maybe they just had a rough day against Buffalo and they go out and beat the Jets by 30 and we all go, see, they bounced back. It rallied the troops and stuff. It's like, well, no, they just had a bad day and this is the real cult. I mean, it's one of those goofy things that we do.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a back and forth thing. I kind of see that theme here. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. I think that we're looking at this and, people like me are superstitious. I am very superstitious at times. Not real ridiculously. I don't carry a rabbit's foot in my pocket, but different things. Especially game-wise, I'm very superstitious, and I know athletes are too. And so I definitely think it has something to do with mentality, and when you're talking about these kind of games. So I'm a believer in it.
Yeah, I think it exists too. You're obviously thinking about that. You obviously, as Hummer Edwards said, you play to win the game, but there's just times where it is harder to play harder against teams that you think you should walk in and beat, and you lose. And then the next game, you want to make sure you win because you don't want to lose sooner. Nobody does. So it is one of those things. Who has the better beard, Ryan Fitzpatrick or Andrew Luck?
Andrew Luck for me. I love that beard.
I gotta say Andrew Luck as well.
Andrew Luck is more of the businessman beard. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I love it because it's more for the mustache part of this beard. If you ever watch a Jets game, and you guys will see it on Monday, it is like hanging over his chin strap. It just looks hilarious. Like, I've probably seen the play where he throws his one interception and Brandon Marshall then goes and strips the ball from the defender 50 times this week just because I love that play so much. And they always show Ryan Fitzpatrick, all excited, and just the way the mustache goes around the chin strap and all that. It makes me chuckle every time. So,
yeah, but I think mine is partially because the Andrew Luck commercial. So I think it's part of the why. So,
yeah. So who are you watching in this game, Gary?
I think Chris Ivory for me is the guy. I think Ivory is going to help this game a lot, especially for the Jets. I think he's going to be able to slice and dice the Jets defense however he wants. I'm not sold that he's going to be the guy that's going to push him over the edge, but I think he's going to be definitely the big stat guy. I think he's going to get 100 plus yards, maybe probably even 2 touchdowns in this game. I think he's going to help Fitzpatrick out quite a bit in this game.
All right, who you got?
I'm going Colts, even though I think it's going to be a really tight game.
I think it's going to be tight too. I got the Colts at home.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I see the line 7.5 right now for the Colts. I think it's less than that. I think the Jets keep it within a touchdown. But I'm sorry, I'm a defender of Ryan Fitzpatrick and being a game manager. But the fact is, when the game is on the line, you need more than a game manager. And I think Andrew Luck will find a way to win at the end. But I think the Jets keep it extremely close. And I would love for them to pull the upset.
I'd watch out for Chris Ivory in this game, too. He could go off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it. We made it through all the games again for the NFL this week. Now we have to roll on to talk about some college games in just a second. Randy, take it away.
All right, so last week wasn't the best week for our group, especially for me. None of us really hit what we did last week. I see Brandon did better than he did the first week, but we all could have a bounce back week, and ESPN has decided to give us the most difficult slate of games we've had so far. So I'm really curious what you guys think. We're going to go through some of these quick ones real fast. I just want, who do you think is going to win, and how many points are you putting it on it? Because these do matter. So let's go with the first one. You have the number 23 ranked Northwestern Wildcats at the Duke Blue Devils. Just real quick, Northwestern is one of only 4 teams that has yet to throw a touchdown, or yet to allow a touchdown. And but Duke ranks 9th with 592 yards per game. So which wins it, offense or defense, Gary?
I'm going to go offense, and Northwestern wins for me.
I got Duke in this one at home. I think the ride for Northwestern ends here. I've got them at... Where do I have them here? I have them at a 5 confidence over Northwestern.
I haven't done my point system yet. I apologize.
No, not a problem. I have Northwestern at a 2 at the moment. I will say, I mean, even though we're doing the confidence stuff, I'm one that I will look at it again Friday and Saturday, and things get changed a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
me
just while setting this up this morning, I probably changed every one of these games at least once. But for now, it's a 2. Second game, the Illinois Fighting Illini at the North Carolina Tar Heels. Illinois did defeat their first 2 opponents by a combined 92-3, but they were nobodies. And it's Marquise Williams, who has 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He's the one that, against South Carolina, kind of blew that game with 2 interceptions in the end zone. Does he do that again, or can North Carolina win it at home, Sean?
I think North Carolina wins this one at home. South Carolina barely beat them, and then they went on to get, beat in their next game. I have North Carolina beating Illinois at a 9 confidence.
Ooh. That surprises me because I have Illinois with the upset, but I only have it as a 4.
I'm going with North Carolina, and Petey probably will be happy.
Oh, Lord.
So
we're
that's
mentioning Petey Pablo on this podcast.
All right, let's go. The Nebraska Cornhuskers and the Miami Hurricanes. Once again, offense versus defense. Nebraska averaging over 500 yards a game, while Miami is only allowing 96 passing yards a game. So who do you got, offense or defense, Gary?
I'm going defense here. I'm going Miami.
I'm going Miami too.
Yep, same here. I have it as 6. Pittsburgh and Iowa.
I have mine at a 4.
Okay, Pittsburgh and Iowa, no crazy stats here. I like Iowa a lot. They looked great against Iowa State. I have them as an 8 in the winner.
I have them as a 10. My 10 beating Pittsburgh.
I got Iowa.
How about Stanford and USC? The thing here is the last 5 meetings have finished within 1 possession. Sean, does that happen again?
Wouldn't be surprised if it does. I'll say it does, but I still got USC. And I got them at a 7 right now over Stanford. Stanford does not look good.
Going USC?
Yeah, USC too. I have it as a 9. I don't think it's going to be a 1-touchdown game. California at Texas. Can Texas get the win at home, Gary?
I'm still not going to be
they
for
better.
Texas. I still think that California wins this game.
Sean, you said they better, do they?
I'm going to say they do. But, man, I am not confident of that at all. I just think at some point, man, you've got to do something here, or Charlie Strong's going to start really feeling the heat. I think if you lose to, California's 2-0 and whatever, and you did lose to a really, really good Notre Dame squad, but I'm just saying, you've got to.
Listen, this whole Charlie Strong stuff, it boggles me a little bit, just because. Wait, is this his first or second year? I'm lost. Second. So he's still not really with the players that he wants yet. He's still going. He's filtering through all this junk that he was given. Give him another year or 2 before we start worrying about records. But I do have California winning this game, but the whole Charlie Strong stuff just confuses me. All right, let's hit our 3 big ones, or excuse me, our 4 big ones of the week. Let's start with a matchup of 2 ranked teams. We have the number 14 Georgia Tech Wildcats at the number 8 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame, of course, lost their starting quarterback last week, so Deshaun Kaiser is your new starter. Georgia Tech has the top-ranked rushing game, and that's all they do is they just ridiculous kinds of formations and different kinds of run games and stuff. Can Notre Dame figure out a way to stop that running game, Sean?
I think they can. Will they is another story entirely. And then you've got the backup quarterback, which, I mean, he looked good in that ending stretch and everything, but I'm not sold completely. I'm going to go with Georgia Tech and I guess the upset going into, the Bend.
I believe here too. It's going to be Georgia Tech. I think the backup quarterback situation could hurt them.
Listen,
and that's exactly where I have it as a 2. I'm not totally convinced. I have Texas winning in the 1, so it doesn't hurt me as bad if they don't win.
The backup quarterback thing really concerns me because last week I did the same thing with BYU and went, backup quarterback, and they're playing Boise State. There's no chance they win, and they did. So the backup quarterback thing now has me really confused as to where I put it in confidence-wise. I say Georgia Tech wins this game, but I have it as a 1. I'm with you, Sean, where it's like, sure. How about the number 18 Auburn Tigers against the number 13 LSU Tigers? LSU is 40-4 in the months of August and September since 2005. Auburn is 1-10 at LSU, losing their last 7, but they did win at home last year by 34 points. Could they pull off the upset at LSU, Gary?
I don't believe so. For me personally, I think LSU is able to win this game. I just right now I just don't see Auburn, especially after their performance the week before.
Man, Auburn is making me really hate that I picked them to win the SEC because they look horrible. My God, Jeremy Johnson can't freaking throw out of a barn right now. I mean, that he's getting saved by his running back and his defense at this point. LSU is, I think, coming on leaps and bounds better than I think a lot of us expected. Leonard Fournette is the guy, and definitely, Brandon Harris is stepping up. So I don't see. I have it as a 3 because, it's SEC and Auburn has done crazy things before, but I have LSU winning this.
Listen, even if Auburn went out and destroyed Jacksonville State by like 70 points or whatever, I still don't have them winning this game. Listen, yes, it is the SEC and all that, but you just do not go into Death Valley and win, especially if you're Auburn. Then add in all the stuff and all the difficulties they had last week. I have LSU as my 10. I have them as my most confident game.
Wow.
Let's move on.
You put that as a lock of the week?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming off of what Auburn did to them last year, and listen, all the stats show that LSU, that's what they do, is they start off strong and you can't beat them at their home field. You have to be twice as good as them if you want to beat them in their home field. Number 19, BYU at number 10, UCLA. You have the battle of the freshman quarterbacks here. Can BYU make magic happen 3 straight games, Sean?
I think their luck runs out at some point here. I mean, I just can't imagine with who they're playing against in this game that it's going to work as my computer decides that it wants to freak out for some stupid reason here. Oh, my God. Who are they playing?
They're playing UCLA.
I think UCLA is surreal. I think UCLA finally puts them out of the luck barrage here.
Yeah, UCLA. Tanner, sorry, the hat trick's not there for you, buddy.
I have it as my 8.
Yeah, I like dress. Is it Rosine, whatever. That quarterback, I've liked the little bit I've been able to see from him this year. I do, once again, think that BYU will go down. They've bit me each of the last 2 weeks. But I have UCLA, and I have them as a 5. I'm still kind of unsure. It's kind of like hedging my bets a little bit just in case they can. But let's go on to our last game and possibly the main event of the weekend, I guess. Number 15 Ole Miss Rebels at number 2 Alabama Crimson Tide. Ole Miss has a ridiculous offense right now, averaging 634.5 yards a game, and they've scored 149 points in their 2 games so far. Alabama has only allowed 17.8 points per game since the beginning of last year. So, Gary, I've asked you this twice. I'll ask you a third time. Offense or defense?
Oh, my goodness. This is a tough one, and you're right. This could be the main event because of the difficulty. I would love to say offense here because their offense has been so great, but, man, I'm looking for Alabama's defense to be the controlling factor here.
It's in Alabama. You don't go to Tuscaloosa and win that easily. Roll Tide.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It pains me to say.
Mm-hmm. It hurts.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, but I think Alabama wins it at home. I have it at 21-17 at my tiebreaker and my 7 on my confidence meter.
I have it as my 6.
Yeah, I definitely got Alabama, though, and I haven't, like I said, I haven't ranked these guys yet, but, I mean, I definitely think the defense will be the strong one here. And, for my score for this game, I had it actually 23 for Alabama, 17 for Ole Miss.
So there you go. Those are the 10 games we got to pick on the college pick'em this week.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
Is there any other really big games of note or anything? I can't.
No, from what I've noticed, I'm trying to open this back up real quick. They really do give us, like, the best of the best. Looks like all of the other ranked teams play junk. South Carolina and Georgia is kind of a decent game, I guess.
They always play them tough, but I think Georgia this time is going to wipe the floor with them.
Yeah, it's at Georgia, so.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about the SEC. It's home field advantage is huge. And I guess that's why I kind of lean on it on the NFL. I know in the NFL it doesn't matter as much, but as a college fan, I always tend to lean for that home field advantage. Here's an interesting one. It's actually on Friday. It's Florida State at Boston College. Could Boston College pull the upset?
I think Boston College could certainly do it. They've really put Jameis Winston's team in a bind, I think, during his first year, or is it the second one? Certainly. So I think, they're not the juggernaut that they have been before. I think Boston College could do it, but I think Florida State winds up pulling out the win.
Yeah, it's tough. It really, really is tough. I could definitely see. I'll say that they can. I'll say they can pull up the upset.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. It's going to be really close. It's going to be on ESPN. Boston College has outscored their opponents 100-3, but those two opponents were Maine and Howard. So it's going to be interesting.
Count.
So, but I'll definitely be paying attention to this game. Everett Golston, his third game, his first real test as a Florida State Seminole. So the spread's at 7.5 right now. I think it'll be close to that. I'll say Florida State wins it by 10, but it'll be close most of the way. But other than that, there's not really anything that we haven't covered.
All right. There you go.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this preview episode. We will be back on Monday night after the Monday night football game to discuss all the Sunday games, obviously, and we'll talk about what teams are leading the pack after 2 weeks. Who looks good, who looks bad, and everything else. And obviously, Randy will lead us through college once again. Well, until then, guys, we will see everyone later. Enjoy those games on the weekend.
Yeah, good luck in your fantasy teams.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Later.